Carl is one of the most innovative business leaders that I know and I've met. So that's why I'm really excited for you guys to hear from him. He founded Cedar Lake Cellars Winery, as well as multiple other businesses here in St. Louis that you may have never even heard of. To get us started, if you've never been to Cedar Lake Cellars, I want to make sure you guys all understand how different it is from other places, other destinations, other wineries. So this is about a 1-minute video that will help frame our conversation.
We'll get away. This is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free.
So, Carl, before we jump in here, I have one specific question I want to get started with.
Sure.
You were once awarded the fittest CEO award. What I want to know is,
Uh-oh.
was that a title you were seeking out when you got this whole journey started? To be the fittest CEO?
Competition was really weak. That's the only way I was. Yeah, I've seen your workouts before. You're an inspiration. Very much.
Thank you. I don't know about that. Your picture intimidates me sometimes, but I try. But can you take us back to how Cedar Lake Cellars started? I mean, rumor has it, from the little research I did, that you were flying over the property and you saw what you liked, and then you decided to land and go knock on the door of the owner and ask him to sell it to you.
You got some good intel, sir.
I mean,
I was taking helicopter lessons, flying a helicopter, and you got to get so many hours. And the instructor at the time asked me where I wanted to go. So I wanted to go back where I grew up. I grew up a few miles from what is now Cedar Lake Cellars. And I'm flying over the grounds. I know most of the neighbors, but this particular farm, I could see that there was a for sale sign on the farm. So I did. There was an open field. I was hopeful I wouldn't get shot at. And I landed, I knocked on the back door, and here the owners are, Erloyd and Bonnie Schreckengast. And Schreckengast, German name, happens to be the same road that the winery's on now, the farm was on. Long story short, I knocked on the door, I introduced myself, I shared that I had grown up around here, I was interested in having my own piece of property back here, because now we reside in St. Louis, back here in the country. He asked me what I wanted to do with it. And he had these barns and sheds and a house. And I said, well, I'd like to fix it up for myself. I love this area. I love the country, and just fix it up for myself. He says, well, I hate to inform you, but I already have a contract on the farm. I said, okay. We exchanged numbers. I said, if anything happens, let me know. I leave, fly off. And then it was a week later. It wasn't any more than a week later. And I got invited to go to a little restaurant in Warrenton. The winery's in Warren County, Warrenton. And I met with Erloyd there. And over a hamburger and a Coke, we decided on a price. We had one sheet of paper We drafted it all up on one sheet of paper. And at the end, I asked him, I said, well, what do you want for a deposit? He goes, you're a man of your word, aren't you? And he stuck his hand out. We had a handshake. And that was our deal. So I had no deposit down. I closed, as I said I would, 30 days later. And what intrigued him when I closed, and I think this was the deal, is that he had a higher number for that property, but he had an option to get out of that. And it was from a developer, because back in 2001, there was still a lot of development going on. And this home builder was going to tear down and strip the property of all the trees and all the buildings. And he had hoped, and he said this to me, he says, I hope you're a man of your word as well, because this farm, road was named after me, Schreckengas Road. And this farm has been in my family for many years, and we'd like to see it renovated. And to this day, it's been renovated, as I said, on that day. And to this day, we continue to improve the farm.
Wow. Huh.
So when you saw the property, as soon as you saw it, did you have the vision for what became Cedar Lake Cellars, or it just came along after the fact?
Yeah, I can't take credit. I saw a lot of possibilities, but to see exactly where it is now, I didn't have that foresight. And, there were things along the way that gave me direction to see the vision. And there's still things to this day that continue to come at us that we are planning ahead and reacting to.
Yeah. So why did you decide to build a winery?
Lisa, I've been in the hospitality industry for over 20 years. In St. Louis, I had this units called Growler's Pub. Had many units up in Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa, Sioux City, Iowa. I was in Miami, Florida. We had a place down there. And so the hospitality entertainment industry is in my blood. But I wanted to do something in my backyard. I wanted to do something there at what is now Cedar Lake Cellars on that farm. I wanted to start small, get it down, get it right, and then build from there. So along with, the other companies I'm working with, I'm also trying to, at the time, many years ago, nurture along and develop and figure out the way for Cedar Lake Cellars.
So now the winery is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've been looking for a reason to open this.
Oh my, and you've got the good stuff there.
Oh yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks to Cedar Lake Cellars.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So over the last decade, what are some of the most significant innovations that you've made?
Wow, innovations. Well, we've had to figure out how to sometimes catch up, but most of the time plan ahead for what's coming at us. We're in one of the fastest growing areas in the state of Missouri. That Wentzville 40, 64 corridor, 70 area, we're right in that golden triangle there. Our numbers, we've had double-digit growth every year, and we're listening through surveys to our customers, our guests that come to visit us. We are always trying to, let me give you an example. We do over 100 weddings many years in a row, and we were turning people away because we only had one building. It was called the Big Red Barn. We started with the Big Red Barn. The Big Red Barn, built in the early 30s, 1930s, beautiful barn. We're just overbooked. So it took us a year and a half, 2 years to build what is now the barrel room, so we could accommodate those additional requests for weddings and corporate events. And we entertain Edward Jones and MasterCard and Worldwide Technology. So the innovation is trying to not guess, but have data points, have surveys, look at your numbers, which direction are those numbers pointing, so that you can plan ahead.
One of the things that impresses me is your ability to plan ahead, because you think about some other businesses and they might be able to build something online and test it and see how viable it is before putting in a lot of capital. But when you, like for instance, when you're talking about the barrel room, there's a large amount of capital and foresight and vision to build a large building before you can see if it will pay off. How do you feel confident about those decisions?
Well, that's a good point, right? To date, the barrel room, 10,000 square feet under roof, free span building, 3 stories in the middle, 10 openings along Swan Lake that open up, the glass ceiling was quite an expensive investment. And to your point, I had a little bit of a contingency plan. So I'm looking at all the reasons to do this. And the main impetus to build another building is because I have too much demand and not enough supply. I have too many events that we're turning them away. Event department says dates are taken, dates are taken, dates are taken. That's money leaving us, right? Those are customers leaving us. So that was one data point. The other data point is positioning that building exactly where it is. And to do that, I had to move a building, to actually pick an existing barn up and move it. But it needed to be there because it would be instrumental that if I was wrong on the event side, data tells me we're turning them away. So data, gotta know that that's a fact. But if I was wrong, I've got the winery side right there. The winery as well as it's all on the same property, but a separate business, open to the public, is growing as well. So I have not one, but 2 uses to be able to use that barrel room. Also, and thirdly, and as important as those 2, in the winery business, when you have rain days or cold days, people plan to go to wineries. Whether you're going south or Defiance or 94, wherever you're going, they're getting babysitters, they're getting buses, they're putting 20, 30 people together, and they're planning this. And then when it rains, what are they going to do? Most of the wineries do not have enough, right, because it takes a lot of capital, covered space. That 10,000 square feet plus another 5,000 square feet in the winery gives us that covered space to help mitigate the inclement weather. Because we know prior to that building, we were in the same boat as everybody else. People, once it started raining, or if it was a rain day, they either left or they didn't come. Now, the weather, whether it's cold or rain, doesn't affect us as much. So 3 things: inclement weather, overflow for the winery, and the event expansion.
But here's what's always impressed me personally about you is I remember the first day I was at Cedar Lake Cellars, and I forgot what event it was. It must have been Spring Fling.
Yeah.
And it seems like what seems to be thousands of people there. And there was a little VIP session where I guess you were attending to people, but you would check in maybe 10 or 15 seconds, but you were off to go doing something else, right? And you do the parking, you pretty much do everything on the supply chain of how that place operates. And for me, that's super impressive because when I think of CEOs, I spend a lot of time with executives, and it's most, we do strategy, and that's, what we're paid to do. But with you is, I will do the parking. I'm pretty sure you could make the wine from scratch.
Don't give me too much credit there.
What frames your, how you work the way you do?
You've got your name on this. It's your signature, right? And whether it's the new parking guys, are they parking the cars right? Are they greeting our customers? Or is it the guy at the front gate, and is he smiling, and does he have a shirt on? Those data points, those checkpoints, when I'm there, okay, I'm on. I'm live. I want to see what's going on. Where can I help? Where can I assist? Hopefully, if everything's running smooth, I'm going to be able to let my guard down. But it's just that business that we're in, that hospitality business. When people come to a facility, they want clean and quality product, and they want to have fun. They want to relax. And I want Cedar Lake Cellars to be their place to go to relax if they want to do that, if they want to listen to great music or California wines, or come to Spring Fling like you were. I mean, that event, there's an event, we get, that's 1,800 to 2,000 people. When we first opened our first one, I think we might have had 150 people there, and Lisa was probably there. Those events now attract 1,800, 2,000, as many as 3,000 people on a weekend. And I think that's from our attention. And it's not just me. Oh, there's some great staff there with that same attention to detail. attention to detail.
So was there a point, Carl, after getting this started where you felt like momentum was picking up and you saw that like, wow, this is really going to work. It's really going to build into something great?
Do you know that epiphany happened about, this is our 10-year anniversary, as you mentioned, for the winery. And we were 2 years into the event business prior to the winery opening. And so that epiphany has happened twice now. The first 2 years where we were just doing the barn weddings in the Big Red Barn, okay? There was a particular wedding there, and I was speaking to the guests, making sure everything was okay, right? And they'd been to 2 weddings there. And what they mentioned to me, listening to the public, right, listening to your customer, having the ear of your customer, is they said, you know, we just love this place, but it's such a shame that we can only come here if we're here for a wedding or an invited event, because it was a private event space. Well, then I go out, I reach out, and then you discover is like, wow, maybe I have something more than just an event space. We open it up to the public. So now let's fast forward 8 years to about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, due to the mass, the size, we're close to 400 acres now. We can park some 10,000 cars on property. And due to that, some people have identified that not only, as I mentioned, were our events getting bigger, our internal signature events getting bigger, but now we had national companies, and Lisa, as you know, an international company come. And now we are now hosting events that range from anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 people up to as many as our Pyromania, our signature event, 11,000 people. So there again, we're going to an entire another level. Companies such as Tough Mudder, which is now Spartan Race, doing their races there. I mentioned Pyromania. We're working with a balloon company to have a balloon glow out there. So those things, along with ours, Spring Fling, Fall Fest, Derby Days, all of those are coming together and really creating a lot of synergy out there with the production team, which is just another level of management that have all pitched in to help run that.
Speaking of that, can you talk a little bit about who's heading up your production team? Because I think she's pretty special to you.
Oh, I think she is. Oh, yes. My wife, Gabriella, oh, I love her so much. And, you know, she came out of the corporate world, right? She worked for a publicly traded company, Dior out of New York, and she was in charge of, oh my gosh, I don't know, 42 stores in 7 states. And she was just a great executive for the company in some 17 years. And she was starting to help me, or help the team, really help the team with some projects at the winery. And then one time during strategic coaching and strategic planning, the staff, the team had actually said, wow, what an amazing help and assistance and leadership, management she had. And next thing you know, she's hung up her corporate shoes, and now she's Sea Lake Cellars, Executive Vice President of Operations of Sea Lake Cellars. And again, attention to detail, very passionate, love her to death. And we've grown together even more working together. It's been wonderful.
Oh, that's pretty neat. I mean, most people that have built companies, especially with the level of success you've had, it seems like their family life takes a backseat to that, but it seems like you figured out how to make it work even better by being in business together and being a partner. And
what's happened is that at the end of the day now, she already knows, and I already know what our days have been like, right? We're already, so instead of us like catching each other up on the day, we're able to look forward through the windshield, right?
That's true.
Like, no, here's what happened to me, what happened to you. It's like, oh no, this was great. And what are we going to do about this? You know, we're solving problems together. We're celebrating wins together, right? So it's been a lot of fun. I don't know what she would say. I would tell you it's been a lot of fun. And what a treat, right? With owners involved, it's like you got that partner there. But she's got some great staff there. We've got some very loyal staff. I mean to tell you, we've got staff that's been there from day one celebrating their 10 years. We've got back from the Growlers Day a manager that was with me that opened up every Growlers. It's been with us for over 20 some years. That gets a lot of credit. And there's just the event staff, the wine manager, everybody out there. They are absolutely nails. The culinary staff, everybody matters. So
I'm wondering, you've had all of this success for over the last decade in building this, and it's very pristine when you get out there. It's almost unbelievable, like you're going to a different world or a different environment or a vacation destination. It's hard to believe that it's only 40 minutes away. But along the way, what are the biggest struggles you faced in building it?
Yeah, so it goes back to that vision. You know, I had to upgrade a lot of the services. When I talk about services, I'm talking about electric, and, you know, we're out in the country, and the septic system and the water and upgrading those things. And at the time, each upgrade, by the way, more than one, unfortunately, each upgrade, that just wasn't quite enough. So some of the challenges was not understanding, or maybe not having a big enough vision. You talk about the success, and the property's taken on its own personality, right? With the attraction of the different companies I mentioned. And wow, that's great, but you got to support that. I mean, we've had to duplicate on 2 occasions now our restrooms. Then that means you need to duplicate the amount of dumpsters and trash you have, and your water system, and you need a bigger well, and you need double the septic system. And so those are some of the things behind the scenes that people don't know, the things that they don't see, the things that they take for granted. We've added parking lots. You've had to have parking lots. Now you have to have lights in the parking lots. Well, then you need more electric for the lights in the parking lots that you had to add. So it's an evolution, and we're getting there. I think we're caught up now, and talk to me in a couple more years, we'll probably have to upgrade again.
Almost every time that I've had an opportunity to talk with you or your team, there's always some kind of new partnership that's happening. You know, just a couple off the top of my head, you know, Sugar Fire, you've recently partnered with, the Billikens and Chaffetz Arena.
Yeah.
How, is there a strategy behind the partnerships that you get? Like, how do they all come to fruition?
I would say Matt Martin and Sugar Fire is a personal strategic alliance partner. Matt and his beautiful wife got married at Cedar Lake Cellars. He's in Wentzville, just opened up his new unit, and so happy and proud of the job they do. And the collaboration with Sugar Fire at the Smokehouse has been amazing. You mentioned SLU, and we've got our amazing slushies down at St. Louis U. And, you know, those strategic partnerships, I just think they help everybody across the board. And we look forward to that. I mean, we feel the same way about Spartan. I mean, they had a lot of decisions, which, by the way, Tough Mudder, which is now Spartan, they have a lot of decisions they have to make on where they're going to go and not go. And they're exclusively still to this day coming out to Cedar Lake Cellars other than anywhere else in the state of Missouri. And it goes back to relationship, quality of the product, and we're just very proud of these alliances with these name brands.
Besides partnerships with other companies, you're also running multiple other very successful enterprises. How are you able to manage all of them at once? And if you could explain a little bit about what those are as well, I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. So I live in St. Louis, and our corporate office, what we call corporate office, Investa, is in Maryland Heights. And Investa is the background behind the curtain that takes care of a lot of the legal, accounting, financing, CapEx, management, HR of the sister company. So Cedar Lake Cellars is the one we're speaking about today. BSR has been around over 30 years. It's a snow and ice management company. We work with major corporations throughout St. Louis during the winter season. We also have a salt company called Champion Salt, separate from BSR, although the product BSR uses is salt. And Champion Salt has an office in Providence, Rhode Island, and New England, and Chicago, and then here in St. Louis. And that's an international company. We import from Egypt. We import vessels of salt every winter, and then we ship it around the world, and we barge it up and down the river system. In fact, this year we're expanding up the river system. If you ever saw any of the salt on any of the highways that MoDOT put down this year, that came from Champion Salt. We were awarded that contract. Then I dabble in a couple other things, some real estate, assisted living facilities, commercial buildings, but the main operating companies would be Champion Salt, BSR, and Cedar Lake Cellars.
How are you able to grow all of those successfully? Are there operations or principles that you have personally? How would you describe that?
It's all about the right people, and trust me, I've had my challenges. And it's not just getting the right people, and I know this is, people say this all the time, but not only getting the right people on the bus, but in the right seats, and then finding out what their strengths are. And that's not true. Some people, these companies are outgrowing. The companies, just by the virtue of their size or what they're doing or their expansion, is growing faster than the management at the head of it. So where do they fit after that? There's a place for them where they fit. And the staff has been there's key staff for each business unit, by the way. I don't take credit. I'm not running each one of these business units. Just like my wife and a gentleman by the name of Pepe Van Treese and Allison and Stephanie are all running the winery. The CEO, who happens to be an attorney by education, is running Champion Salt. Same thing with the other companies. There's these key people that run those companies, and we're trying to support them so that they can, Invest Management is trying to support them the best we can so they can do what they do best. Don't worry about AP or AR or, Lisa, in our case, marketing. You know this. You're doing the marketing for all these companies, okay? And a great job. You're helping us grow. So there's another strategic partner with Move, right? And give these people the resources. We have corporate HR now, the marketing, the legal. Let them go do what they do best. And that's the key, I feel, in my business model is in running organizations. I will tell you one other thing that I'm very passionate about, and that's processes and operating procedures, okay? And they're living, breathing documents. And I feel that you got to do it the same way every time, unless it's not working or you want to improve it. But that's the way you get those 3,000 and 4,000 people to see Lake Cellars on a Saturday, because they're expecting this experience and they want that experience, and you got to deliver that time and time again. So key people, building, always working on the culture, retaining those key people, having them in the right seats, and then following the processes.
When you talk about following the processes, can you tell everybody what the Bible is?
Sure. And this reference is, it's the BSR Bible, and what it is, it's a document that tells you every month, by week, what we're to do to stay on schedule, to stay on track, to deliver the very best of us to our clients. So how do we do that? This is how we do that. And it starts out at 30,000 feet. And behind that page, you can get a little lower, you get a little lower. You can get so granular that I can tell you what we did for this client or for this service 1 year ago or 5 years ago. And did it work? Did it not work? What surveys say? How can we improve it? And upgrade that so it's a living, breathing document so that we're always staying on what I call the cutting edge and not the bleeding edge.
Moving into current day and where we're at now, the COVID-19 crisis has been something that is completely unprecedented that none of us could have expected. How has it affected you, and how are you handling it and innovating through it at this time?
Sure, right? A pandemic, right? Who would have guessed that one? That was not in the business plan. So, well, you have the governor's doing the very best he can to mitigate and manage this. We've got our county executives in Warren County. I've been on the phone with them daily the last couple days. We've been affected. We've been shut down. We've been closed. We want, it's paramount that we protect our staff and the public, and we're going to use all of our best practices for this coronavirus. I will say that when we open, and we've been planning, we're turning lemons into lemonade. During this time off, the last 40 days, we've been restaining and painting and cleaning and maintaining and updating our SOPs, working on our menus when we open, working on a plan. Gabriel and the team are working on a plan every day on how we're going to open and open successfully. What's going to be our new protocol? How are we going to look? How are we going to do social space distancing? Okay, or in our case, it'll be swan distancing. But having said that, we also have a vast amount of acreage there, and we are expanding. And it was a great time to do this. We've added across Swan Lake. We've added a bridge over into our festival area. So we have another 10-acre festival area for guests. We have plenty of seating out there. And we're going to spread positivity. We're not going to spread germs. When you come there, you're going to feel safe. You're going to feel invited. You're not going to feel like you're on top of anybody. We want you to come, relax, come to the country, and just enjoy yourself. So we're going to take all the precautions. When you come in there, you're going to feel like you belong there.
So I think that leads perfectly into a mantra that you live by that I've heard you say quite a few times, where you say no excuses. And so at this time, when all of this is happening, it's no excuses, you're still building out there. Can you tell us a little bit about that mantra and what it means to you?
Well, I think it's personal to me, but I think it's most entrepreneurs or successful executives or successful people, right? I mean, there's always going to be stumbling blocks, but who can turn those into stepping stones, right? Those are the ones that are going to get to the top of the mountain. And you know, sometimes you got to run hard when it's hard to run, but everybody has an excuse or a reason. And we say, you know, results, no excuses. You know, what's the workaround? How are we going to turn this into something positive for us? Where's the solution provider in us, right? Somebody's going to figure it out. Why not us? Why not us? So yeah, excuses doesn't work with our culture and our organization. We're always looking on how we can do things, not how we can't. And that's the way we go through life. And we go through the organization, and that's the life of investors. You know, you've got to be out there taking the good days with the bad days and turning those around. So yeah, we live by that, that's for sure.
My question for you is, I've always tried to understand the story behind what molds people into who they are. So you've built all this company and all these businesses and all this cultures almost from scratch, I think. What is it that drives you? Was it when you were young, you just didn't want to work for anybody else? You just wanted to create businesses? I'm trying to understand the ethics behind how you ended up creating so many great companies.
You know, it might be a little personal to me. I grew up out in Forestall. My dad's still alive, a school teacher. My mom took care of 3 boys. I'm the oldest. And we had our challenges growing up and going to school and working out on a farm and not having much. I'm not going to say our parents provided us whatever they could provide us. But, you know, growing up and watching my father spent 40 years in teaching school and having 2 jobs his entire life. My mom, once us boys got a little older, just a little older, like in our teens or whatever, she took on a job working, you know, 8 and 10 hours a day. And I saw them at an early age with this tremendous work ethic and just to scratch to get by. I mean, not just to scratch to get by. They, you know, later on in life lived in, nothing wrong with this. I lived in a mobile home and they lived in a mobile home. I mean, it was a very humbling upbringing. And I think there was a lot of drive there to see what I could do. I didn't feel at a very young age I really had much to lose. I'm the gentleman here at Innsbruck, that was one of my first real jobs was at Innsbruck. And it was $2.75 an hour. And I remember after like 3 years, I got a nickel raise, right?
Yeah.
That was real money. I mean, that was real money. And you worked a lot of hours there for it and you enjoyed it. And I'd have to give kudos. That's where I learned about culture. I mean, that was just a great organization. So I think it was from humble beginnings. Is it a fear of lack thereof? Is it a fear of, going back? Or is it just once you got the adrenaline going and you had a little success, you just kept repeating it? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's an amazing story because, when I think of that story and I think of how I grew up in Nigeria, right, it's a similar situation, but the end result was different, right? So in that world, it was more get an education and go work for a named company. And the idea was that if you were working for those Fortune 100, 200 company, that was the metrics for, success.
Yeah.
And so, you get there and then you see all these people building unique things and you're thinking, how did they end up building these things?
Sure.
So Carl, what does the future look like for you? What's your vision moving forward?
Looking forward, I continue to see us grow Champion Salt. That's a salt company. We're going to grow that company up and down the river system here in the Midwest. I see that company continuing to get a lot of traction. Cedar Lake Cellars, you heard I'm expanding already into another area. We're looking at some additional signature events. Those events are 7,000 plus people each event, and excited to grow that brand as well. BSR has been my mainstay here in St. Louis. We've got some tremendous staff that's been onboarded in the last couple of years. I've got some existing staff that has just really caught their stride. I see growth with those three companies. Our nose are down. We're very focused. We're growing together. We're learning together. I sit on a lot of meetings, and a lot of Zoom calls every day. I'm very much hands-on, and I just love what we're doing and who we are, and just building that culture. So incremental growth. Don't want to get over our skis. Incremental, controlled growth. Know what our numbers are. My biggest concern, not that you asked this, my biggest concern is what is the new world? A lot of people are like it's going to be a light switch. Like sometime the president or the governor is going to say, okay, go back to work, and like everything's going to go back to normal. I don't know what that looks like. I remember 2008. That was very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of friends. And out of that came a lot of lessons. And I don't know what's going to happen here. There's one thing that we're doing is we're staying lean and mean. We're really focused on being efficient, but yet effective and not cutting any corners on quality.
So Carl, one other question for you. I want to paint a picture here. So it's years ago, as a young Carl, you were still looking good, you were still looking fit. What advice would you give yourself when you first started building your businesses, after everything you know now? Think about, I don't know, say 20, 30 years ago from now. If you could go back in time and talk to your young self, what advice would you give them?
Wow. I think I would say that I should have listened to my, I should have acted. I listened, but I didn't act fast enough on some mentorship that I had from some of my close mentors. I might have had a little bit too much ego. I might have had a little bit, maybe too stubborn, because I find that I'm now, and have been over the years, I've improved and gotten better, but I think being a better listener and more open-minded, that's what I think. I've always, when you're an entrepreneur and you have strong personality and you want something and you go get it, right?
True.
And nobody's going to work as hard as you think, everybody thinks that. And so I think just listening. I have one of my dearest friends. He's the best man at my wedding, and he's still daily. Like we speak practically every day, and he's given me some great advice. It took me a few years to catch on through my thick head, and I think that's what I would say is that surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I'm learning every day, and just listen and follow through.
So it sounds like with that, I could also ask as a backup question, what is the worst advice you've gotten?
Wow, the worst advice. Respectfully, other people will always have great ideas as long as it's your money. Yeah, they have great ideas. They just want you to invest. So notice that's why we invest in ourselves.
Is there any advice that you'd like to give an aspiring founder? What should they consider first before building a business?
Well, I think you really have to ask yourself, do you have the fortitude? Do you have the tenacity? Can you be a solution provider? Because you're going to get a lot of curveballs. You're going to get told no. You have to know that the word no means yes if you want it to. I said this earlier, you got to run when it's hard to run. You got to know that there's no sick days. You got to know that people will let you down. They will fail you. And you got to take all that in stride and continue to conquer your days every day. And just know the 360 of business. You've got to know a little bit about everything and surround yourself with key people that you trust. I think that's what you need to ask yourself. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because there's no days off. It's 7 days a week. It's 7 days a week. And if you're passionate about it, if you're committed to it, there's a really good chance you'll be able to be successful. Whatever success looks to you. Me, I like building things. I've built several companies in the past. I've sold them to two publicly traded companies, one to a private company. But I like building. I like working with teams. I like putting the teams together. I like seeing the results. And that's what drives me every day.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Carl, for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for that joining us tonight. This was amazing.